An army versus birds. Sounds impossible, right? But in 1932, Australia actually fought the Great Emu War, and the result shocked everyone. Thousands of emus invaded these farms after World War I. They weren't just hungry, they were unstoppable. What would you do if this was your entire year's harvest?
1932, Western Australia. No one imagined a simple farming season would soon become one of history's strangest wars.
Then it happened. Thousands of emus invaded the farms, eating and crushing everything. Seriously, how do you stop an army that never stands still?
The farmers wanted help, so the government sent soldiers with 2 Lewis machine guns.
The soldiers reached Campion and waited patiently. The plan sounded simple: let the emus come closer, then fire. But nothing was about to go as planned. The soldiers opened fire, but the emus exploded in every direction. Before they could aim again, the flock had already vanished into smaller groups. The emus never stayed together. They split into small groups, making them almost impossible to target. Who would have guessed birds could outsmart military tactics? Then the soldiers tried something different. They mounted a Lewis machine gun on a moving truck. It sounded brilliant until the rough ground had other plans. The truck bounced so violently the soldiers could barely aim, and the emus, they simply kept running. Can you believe it? The birds were actually winning. After days of chasing them, the soldiers discovered a shocking truth. Their powerful weapons were useless against the speed and intelligence of the emus. The news spread quickly. People across Australia couldn't believe it. An army had been challenged, and the enemy had feathers instead of weapons. But the battle was not over. The government had to decide: continue the operation or admit defeat against an enemy nobody expected. The operation continued, but every attempt revealed the same problem. The emus were fast, scattered, and far harder to defeat than anyone imagined. Behind the headlines, one question remained. How could a bird with no weapons create such a problem for a trained military force? The truth was simple. The emus were not soldiers. They were following food and water across their natural path, straight through farmland. After weeks of fighting, the result was impossible to ignore. The soldiers were leaving, but the emus were still here. Most people think the story ended there, but it didn't. Farmers refused to give up. They demanded the government take action once again.
The pressure worked. Just days later, the government approved a second operation. This time, the soldiers believed they had learned from their mistakes.
This time, the soldiers changed their strategy. Instead of chasing giant flocks, they waited near places the emus visited every day, waterholes and farms. The new plan worked, at least for a while. With the emus arriving in smaller groups, the soldiers finally managed to reduce their numbers. But the victory was far from complete. Even after those successes, the numbers barely changed. For every flock that disappeared, another seemed to appear from the endless Australian wilderness. By December, the military had reached an unavoidable conclusion. They could slow the emus down, but they couldn't stop them. The operation had reached its limit. So what happened next? Australia didn't replace the soldiers with a bigger army. Instead, it found a solution that worked far better: strong fences. Today, the Great Emu War isn't remembered for victory. It's remembered because nature defeated human plans. One lesson became impossible to ignore. Sometimes, the smartest solution isn't more force, it's changing the strategy. So, who really won? Maybe no one. Or maybe nature simply played by its own rules.